Welcome to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Authors Unite. Authors Unite makes the process of becoming a published, best-selling author as simple as sipping your morning cup of coffee. You can learn more about Authors Unite at authorsunite.com. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast podcast. I am your host, Tyler Wagner. Today, I have Rachel Chang with us. She is the owner of Rachel Chang Consulting, an event management company that handles entrepreneurial events like Dallas Startup Week. And she is also a venture associate at Tech Wildcatters. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm grateful to have you here. We'll dive into the first one, Rachel. The first question I have for you is, what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
Yeah, so the best story that I like to tell people is actually when I quit my job in architecture. So I remember it very distinctly. It was a Wednesday morning, probably about 10 a.m. I'm sitting at my desk working on some construction documents. In the back history is that for about a year, I had been coming into the office every day just feeling unsatisfied and, to be honest, quite miserable with my profession. So I'm someone who trained my whole life to be an architect. At 12 years old, I was like, this is what I want to do, went to school for it, worked in a lot of different firms and got several different experiences. However, when it finally came time to be in the industry and really settle, I realized that, I just didn't like the profession at all. So even though I was in this perfect firm environment, it was on that Wednesday morning that I realized that no one is forcing me to do this. It's my life. And if I don't start making decisions for myself, then I'm always going to live based on other people's expectations or desires or interests for my life without living for my own. And so I got up, walked down to my boss's office, looked at him and said, hey, I don't think I'm supposed to be an architect. And his response was like, well, we hoped you'd never figure that out because we really, really like having you at this firm. But yeah, you're not meant to sit behind a desk for 8 hours a day. So I left. I left my first career at 24 years old. It was scary and crazy. And but what the valuable message was in that was, no matter kind of what your age is, no matter how hard you've worked for something, if you choose not to pursue a career or an industry anymore, it's not the end of the world. You are totally empowered and able to make those decisions for your life.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's huge, because a lot of people, I think, they'll spend too much time at a 9-to-5 that they do not enjoy, and it is just, in my opinion, not worth it. So the next one I have for you, Rachel, is, what is the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
Yeah, so for this question, I'll specifically answer in regards to event management, since that's my predominant company. I always tell people to delegate yourself out of a job. So when you are organizing large-scale events like Dallas Startup Week or State of Entrepreneurship or things like that, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. There's always going to be emergency. The day of your event, a volunteer is not going to show up, or a speaker is not going to be on time, whatever it may be. And so I always say, make sure you've delegated yourself out of a job beforehand so that when those emergencies pop up, you have free hands to take care of it. The worst thing you can do is be responsible for something, say like you're responsible for checking in all the guests. Well, then suddenly a speaker doesn't show up and you have to go take care of that. So what do? Do you drop checking in people for your event, or do you go take care of a speech? So I always just say, make it easy on yourself, delegate yourself out of a job.
And what's your best piece of overall business advice? So not necessarily industry specific.
Overall business advice, find a mentor, hands down, especially in regards to entrepreneurship, right? So I work around a lot of startups, a lot of entrepreneurs, and a common thing that is thrown out is that entrepreneurs need the one thing that they don't have, which is experience. And the only way you can get it is either through time or through other people's experiences. And so I always say, if you find a really strong set of mentors you can just soak up everything that they have to say, and you are way more likely to like skip over some of the hurdles that are associated with business.
Yeah, I could not agree more. A mentor is huge, and just a little backstory for me is when I ended up dropping out of school, and then I got a mentor that I worked directly under. It was actually for free for 6 months, but what I learned was worth way more than any amount of money. So it's huge, and I highly recommend that everybody does that, especially like if they know what industry they want to be in. Just find that person in that industry that's where you want to be, and reach out to them and ask them if you can help them. And you'd be surprised, like people that have already quote unquote made it, they also like to give back, and it feels good for them to give back as well. So it's not as hard as you think to find a really good mentor. The next one I have for you is, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would tell myself to enjoy the day-to-day a little bit more. I think this is something I'm noticing even in people who are 5-6 years behind me, that we are all rushing towards being like the best, or being the most successful, or being the CEO now. And even though I'm still I'm still only 25 years old, but I'm noticing that the older I get, the more I realize like I can enjoy the season that I'm in. Like, there's a whole other mantle of responsibility that comes when you're in charge of something, or when you're the innovator in the room. And I would just tell my younger self, like, enjoy that you're getting to learn, and that you're getting to, mess up on someone else's dime, on someone else's watch. Like enjoy the fact that you have bosses above you and have someone to learn from, and stop trying to rush through that season.
Yeah, I agree. And not to get all like woo woo or like spiritual here, but in reality, like the only like real thing is like right now. So I think the biggest thing is like we're all trying to get to this like mountaintop, but then once you get to the mountaintop, then the next thing is trying to get to another mountaintop. So really the key is just enjoying the journey to the, whatever the mountaintop is. So I think, you're supposed to have the most fun is the actual journey of doing it, not necessarily like achieving anything, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That perfectly leads into the next one. So in your opinion, what is the key to happiness?
So I'm actually still working on this one for myself. I feel like for me it changes. Like the older I get, the more mature I get, the more insight I receive. I think that my definition of happiness changes. So for me right now in this season of life, what I'm realizing is happiness is finding balance. I just got done with maybe a year and a half worth of working very long hours, dedicating a lot of my time into my career, none of which is bad. But I'm realizing what's important for my happiness now is doing things like spending time with my husband and taking days off, and really learning to find happiness is finding that balance of all areas of life.
And what is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from that?
I really love Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And there's a chapter in there where he talks about how encouragement is better than criticism. And so that is a book that really impacted the way that I interacted with people on a day-to-day basis. And I really, really enjoy the chapter where he talks about being more encouraging and less critical.
And what is your favorite quote and why?
Oh my gosh, to be honest, I couldn't even tell you. Like I will say, I'll pick two actually. I'll pick two related in the entrepreneurial vein. One is a quote that my boss used to say all the time. He still says it a lot. Is a rising tide raises all ships, meaning that, especially in the context to a community, when someone in your community does well, it does well for the entire community. And so that it's this thought that like you should focus on like other people in your communities wins as a win for yourself and for everybody. And so like being more encouraging and collaborative. And then Steve Case, the founder of AOL, says a lot. If you want to go alone, or if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So on all their Rise of the Rest, advertising and whatnot, he says that quote very often, and I think that's so true. I keep reminding myself of that in business. There's a lot of times where I could just get stuff done so much faster if I did it myself, but a lot of times that leads to burnout and kind of some resentment. But if you want to go a long way, if you want to go far in business, then you need to learn to work with and rely on others too.
I agree. And thank you so much for coming on. The last one I have for you before we let you go is, where is the best place for people to find and or connect with you online?
LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So you can find me at Rae D. Chang, RAED Chang. So that's all my social medias handles are the same. So, but LinkedIn is my favorite.
Perfect. I am also a huge LinkedIn fan. So thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tyler.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.